So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to you all to this session on enabling environment for female operators. My name is Franziska Volk, and on behalf of the Congress host, GWOPA UN Habitat, I'm happy to send greetings from the UN campus in Bonn in Germany to our worldwide Congress participants. As a young and female professional, I am genuinely excited about this session. These discussions are needed, and I'm happy that they find a platform here within the Congress. We will hear practical experience from utilities as well as individuals' perspectives. And based on these hands-on experience, we will jointly discuss a set of practice-oriented recommendation on enhancement of gender equity for the utility sector. This includes how to attract and retain women to work in this male-dominated sector, as well as the advancement of their careers. For your best event experience, I would like to encourage you to access the participants chat on the right side. If you're joining the chat for the first time, you will be required to sign in either with your email or social media account. And secondly, please complete the session feedback survey at the very bottom of the session page. This will give us very valuable feedback as we continue to improve our events. Before we start the session, the GWOPA team is also very proud to announce a small launch here today. And let me quickly share one slide for that with you. The GWOPA has produced a podcast series called the WOPcast, and the second episode of this podcast is named Women in Water and Sanitation Utilities and WOPs. And in this episode, we interviewed three inspiring and very smart women from the World Bank Social Inclusion team, as well as female operators from Mali and Argentina. And I think the podcast episode and this session have a common origin and motivation, which is globally less than 1 in 5 water workers are women, and women are also underrepresented in technical and managerial positions. And in the podcast, you will hear that removing those barriers to female employment and careers advancement has numerous benefits, not only for women, the staff themselves, but also for the utilities and the communities they serve. All participants listening in here and in the Congress will receive the link in the upcoming newsletter, and we enjoy you. We hope you enjoy listening in, and you can take some time off the screen. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand over to the moderator of the session, Ms. Ulrike Kelm. Ulrike is the co-founder and also the current chair of the Women in Water and Sanitation Network. This is a young network founded only 3 years ago to give professional women in the water sector a platform to meet, to network, to inspire, and to get inspired. The network also aims to reach the ultimate goal of empowerment of the individual female professionals and reaching gender equity and an inclusive water and sanitation sector. Ulrike, thank you very much to you and your network and your team for shaping this session. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Franziska, for these nice words. Actually, now I think I do not have to say much more than that. I'm very happy of being here together with the GWOPA and presenting the site event of enabling environment for female operators. We have in this session, we have 4 speakers from Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So the first speaker is Crisel Alejandro. She is Senior Vice President of Balibago Waterworks System in the Philippines. Our second speaker will be Mrs. Diana Magwawa. She is the first female managing director of the Naka Water Supply and Sanitation Company in Zambia. And then we will have Jeff Marilyn Mongbo. She is a rural engineer at the Ministry of Water Resources Management and Energy in Cameroon. And our fourth speaker will be Gianpiero Lavezzo Richard. He is the People and Culture Manager at the Water Operators SBO in Chile. So with these speakers, I'm very happy that we can have a wonderful session about all the topics Franziska has just mentioned. But before we start our session or our side event, I would really like to do a kind of provocative question to you all. And I'm just getting confused with sharing the screen. So, am I back now on the, yes, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Okay, before we start with a discussion on female operators and an enabling environment for them in water operations, I would like to ask you a very provocative question. And I would like to ask you to complete at the Mentimeter here in the chat box. My colleague Lindsay will put the link here in the chat box at the Mentimeter. I would like to ask you the question, why should women work in a male-dominated sector? As we say, water operators are a male-dominated sector and water operations are not so common for women to choose a job in. So why should they work there? So we would like to hear your ideas, your words on this, your thoughts. So please, Lindsay, can you, I think you've just done the internal chat. The right side chat is the public side, isn't it? Franziska, can you help us? I'm sorry.
I can send it in the participants. Someone posted it there. It's there.
It's
the participants have to copy and paste. I think it's not clickable.
Oh, it's not clicking. Okay. Lindsay has just positioned the link to our first question. Why should women work in a male-dominated sector? So please give us a word, your idea. What do you think? Why should women work there? Lindsay, maybe you can also share your screen. Super. So we see here wonderful words coming up: passion, right qualifications, confidence, new ideas. What other words come up in your mind? So passion, freedom of profession, efficient, new ideas, confidence, passion, right qualification. I think these are very nice words. When we think about new ideas, I think this is something key. When we have a look at the development or the evolvement of water operations during the past decades, a lot has happened, a lot has changed. The companies have changed a lot. So new ideas are needed. So if you are keeping out one part of the possible workforce you can hire, you might miss these new ideas for your company, for your water operations. So I think with this, I would like to hand over to our first speaker, Chrysel. Chrysel is Senior Vice President at Balibago Water Systems Incorporation Waterworks in the Philippines. And she has really a very exciting position in an absolute outstanding company, because it is a family-owned business started generations ago with, I think by your father, isn't it? I'm sorry, Chrysel, for mixing up the generations, but it is now has been growing and it's spreading all over the country. So it is a an absolute fantastic development during the past decades. And in this vibrant new type of water operations, we have the pleasure to listen to the Senior Vice President, Crisel Alejandro. Please, the floor is yours, Crisel.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Crisel Panlilio Alejandro, Senior Vice President of Balibago Waterworks, a private water utility operating in the Philippines. Thank you very much to the organizing committee for inviting me to speak about female participation in the water sector. The Philippines has been proud of being one of the most gender equal countries in the world for a long time. Testament to this is that we have had 2 female presidents out of 16 presidents, while some countries have had no female heads of state since time immemorial. Culturally, we are a society that has high respect for women, and as a result, we have developed strong-minded Filipinas over the decades. It must be admitted, though, that in recent years, we have also been slipping on some gender indices, and the women's groups opine that there are glass ceilings and employment discrimination still exist. Nevertheless, under current circumstances, the Global Gender Gap Report of 2020 by the World Economic Forum still garnered the Philippines a rank of 16th out of 153 countries with the narrowest gap between men and women. To introduce our company, Balibago Waterworks is a 64-year-old private water utility operating 75 municipal franchises all over the Philippines. Our credo or promise to our customers is to provide them water availability 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, water pressure of at least 16 psi during peak hours, water quality passing Philippine national standards for drinking water, and to provide the best quality service to our customers. How has the company fared under the filter of gender equality? Here are some of our statistics. We have a total of 710 employees, out of which 67% or 473 are male, and 33% or 237 are female. While it is true that our company is still predominantly male, there are 2 employee classifications where females outrank the males. These are our accountants and branch managers. In this slide is a picture of our Batch 4 branch manager training program. There is a mix of employees who are newly hired for the program and those who are current employees who applied to join the branch manager training program so that they can progress from a lower position and aspire to become a branch manager if they pass the training. Isn't it interesting to see that there are more females than males in this program? Out of the 18 manager trainees, 10 are females and 8 are males. On slide 8, I present to you the organizational chart of our management committee. The boxes in blue represent males, and the boxes in orange represent females. While the president of our organization is male, the second line of authority, the senior vice presidents, myself being one of them, are female. In the third line of authority, all is male, but in the fourth line of authority, you can see that 4 out of 9 assistant vice presidents are female. On this slide, you will see the organizational chart of Finance and Accounting Division. While the heads are both male, The next in line are all female managers. And after that, you can see we have only 8 male accountants and 25 female accountants. How did our company have such a strong female representation across the organization? Here are some of the best practices that have encouraged females to apply and be hired in our company. Majority of job positions are open equally for men and women. This is made known through internal and external job vacancy postings. Compensation schemes are determined by job position and qualification. No discrimination on salaries, whether the person being hired is male or female. Training programs and job promotions are open for all, no matter what the gender. Employees are allowed to leave during working hours if they need to attend to important family matters. Flexible working hours and target-based performance are offered to employees whose physical presence are not required in the office. Employees are encouraged to use their vacation leaves to spend time with their families. What are the contributions of females in the workforce? Women provide a high attention to detail and are creative in thinking of solutions. Women have a high emotional quotient that benefits dealing with difficult employees, customers, and other stakeholders. Women have strong personalities where they can be both tough on implementation of company policies, but at the same time use charm to influence one to comply. Women are sometimes the breadwinners of their families, thus they have a strong ambition to succeed and gain financial stability. Last but not the least, women are able to multitask and do a balancing act between work and their personal life. Thank you. This is the example of Balibago Waterworks and how we have encouraged female participation in our workforce.
Thank you very much, Chriselle. I think that's really fascinating to hear that at the senior level in the company and at key positions within the company, there's a real mix of staff. There's men and female. And what I like is that you emphasize the topic of training, that you say the branch manager training program really emphasizes women to participate in the programs and to join the company. Also, I think you mentioned one topic that is quite important nowadays in a modern work life, that is flexible working hours when possible. So I really think you highlight some very interesting topics that are really helping to enable professional women in water operations and to make this, how I say, stigma of being a male-dominated area, like just leaving our minds. I would like to introduce now our next speaker, who is Diana Makbawa. She is Managing Director of the Nakwa Water Supply and Sanitation Company in Zambia. This is a company that serves over 70,000 customers over 4 towns. And she became the first female chief executive officer in 2007. This is really a very prominent and very challenging position. And I would really like to hear your experience, Diana. And I would like to give you the floor. Please, Diana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ulrike, and
we're waiting for the
good afternoon to you all. It is afternoon here. I'm Diana Makwaba, Managing Director for Nkana Water Supply and Sanitation Company in Zambia. So I would like to share my presentation on what we have as a utility as we provide service and how we take care of the issues of gender. So let me just share my presentation. I don't know if you can see my presentation.
No, we cannot. It's always a challenge with new systems. It's the third button on the from the left to share your screen. Yeah, now we can see your presentation.
Thank you. Is that clear?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you so much. So I'll be able to give you a background of who we are as Nkana Water and what we are doing, of course, in relation to the subject, engagement of women in construction works. This is for communities, adolescent menstrual health and training, and also I'm part of the Association for Women Sanitation Professionals Network, what we're doing, recommendations and way forward. So in terms of the company, Nkana Water Supply and Sanitation Company, we were incorporated in 1998 and began operating in July 2000. We are wholly owned by Kitwe City Council and Kalushi Municipal Council. These are the local authorities. And we operate in 3 towns on the Copper Belt, but recently we've also been assigned a 4th town. So we're looking after 72,215 customers, basically providing water supply and sanitation services. So in terms of our key parameters, for water coverage, we've achieved 98.1% of the population that we serve. Sanitation lags behind at 80%. We've got 90% of our customers metered, so we still have about 10% unmetered. And our constancy of supply currently is still low at an average of 17 hours of supply per day. So we are producing 180,000 cubic meters of water per day and 65,000 cubic meters of effluent per day. What are we doing as Nkana Water in terms of supporting gender equality and also seeing how we ensure that the women who are underrepresented are also taken care of and also encouraged to join the sanitation space? So as a company, we've put in place a gender policy, and this is what helps to guide various aspects. And through this policy, it has helped to support women visibility. And what we've seen is in terms of top leadership, currently the ratio is 57% females and 43% males. But I must admit that at lower levels of the company, we still have some work to do because we are at 74% male and 26% female. So we have work to do to ensure that we continue improving this ratio. Through coaching and mentorship of both employees and girls from high schools, it is helping us to encourage other girls to be able to take up these technical professions and also professions in sanitation. We also have leadership training involving women so that we encourage them to not to lag behind. And we also have the employee career sessions. We have these days like Women's Day, Labor Day, and it helps us if we can be able to encourage these women to participate through various programs. So we encourage balanced representation in terms of various committees within the company, the union, as well as other committees that we have. We've got also some support from Waterworks from Netherlands, from Viten Zevides of Netherlands, and we are emphasizing the need to also place female interns. The reason is that for the male, we have them in a bigger number, so there's need to encourage the female. And at government level, we have a gender focal point person at our ministry. But apart from within the utility, we're also working on various projects in our low-income communities to improve sanitation. And we're actually training women to make sanitation platforms for VIP toilets. This helps them to be skilled and also helps them to improve their livelihood, because once you are able to improve the livelihood of a woman, you're also really looking at improving the livelihood of a family. We've also gone further and looked at how can we encourage girls to go higher with education. So we're helping with their menstrual hygiene, and we're also helping them really to learn to make this reusable sanitary ware and be able to participate in various community programs. So this is one way in which we are helping to encourage gender balancing. So we're looking at formalizing a mentorship and coaching program through this policy and exposure of female employees to high-profile women, both locally as well as globally. And we also introduce awards for female, and we're really targeting to see how we can aspire for a gender-balanced institution. Obviously, we're still low, and we're looking at 50%. We also promote networking with other women professionals, and we have various ways in which we do that through associations. But I would like to highlight something that I'm also involved in, the Association for African Women Sanitation Professionals Network. Now, what is this network? This is one that is taking leadership to enhance our participation in the sanitation space. And it's part of a bigger African network, and it's open to all women working in sanitation space. So you don't have to be technical, you can be financial, you can have a different profession, you can also be informal or formal. And the goal mainly is to increase the number, equip, and advance prominence of women in the sanitation sector. This is in order to enable them assume strategic roles beyond just being sanitation service users. So we're looking at various programs under the association, the network, where we are ensuring that we change the narrative, and we've had support from GIZ. So we're trying to create a platform where women in sanitation can come together. And we're also identifying and promoting girls, even in higher institutions of learning. Even we are looking at how can we also promote those in secondary school to see how they can take up training in TVET or WASH, the technical side, as well as water sanitation and hygiene. We're looking at undertaking a baseline study and use these findings to inform our future work. We're also developing and implementing a mentorship program, and we've been able to do that on one of our Zambia Water and Sanitation Zambia Water Forum and Exhibition. We launched a mentorship program. So we're really looking at enhancing visibility of women at international and national fora. So what are our recommendations and way forward on how best we can encourage women to be able to take up these roles which are considered to be men? We need mindset change from both men and women, because we need the men to support the women to take up these roles. Probably happy that I've had a good team that has helped to support me, but of course also mentorship from other networks. We need adequate financing for gender interventions initiatives, and also adequate exposure to women networks as well as gender fora. And there's need to take advantage of new working arrangements. I heard someone talk about flexible working. We've managed post-COVID to be doing most of our work remotely, so that can also encourage those who cannot come to the office to be able to do that. So we also think we should come up with initiatives that will bring more women to join the sector. So education support, internship, and attachment programs. And basically, we also need to make sure our work environment in workplaces caters for the different gender, so that we are able to encourage that. So these are our recommendations and way forward, in addition to what else we are doing. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Diana. This has been really insightful. It's very interesting to hear what your company is doing and where you reach out and with whom you reach out. So I think you really mentioned something that is very important, reaching out to others to learn from them and to see what is important for your own personal career when you want to when you want to start a career in water operations. I think that's really insightful. I really like the outreach that you mentioned, the outreach to schools, even schools, not just university, but you start even in a younger generation, and this helps to shift a bit the mindset, I think. I have seen here in the chat a question for you from the audience that says, what are the barriers for women to enter a job in water operations? Are this a good career for women, the STEAM career? So as you say, you reach out to schools. Do you already try to shift a bit the mindset of people? Diana.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think it is quite a challenging sector in that it's male dominated, as it was said at the beginning. I was the first female MD among 11 water utilities in the country. I'm happy now that we do have a second one, but I'd been the first female, and it was quite male dominated. And what you find is most of the time you are one female among male in various fora, and you still have to be able to present your issues and your aspects. So I had to do a lot of learning and networking, and to be able to appreciate from those who had gone before me. And I must appreciate the mentorship that I received and the partnership with other utilities that were doing well. So with that confidence, I think it also helps to reach out to the others who actually think, well, it would be difficult to work in this sector. We find that with the professionalism, you can be able to achieve much. And there's a lot that as a utility we have achieved. And I must say that I'm also happy that at senior management level, we've moved and we find that we have more female than male. But I must also say that there's need for a balance, and I appreciate the support also coming from the men. So we need to be mindful not to try and keep away the men, but to ensure that we encourage the women to work with the men so that we can achieve what is required. So from my experience, learning from those who have gone before and have achieved helps to shorten the learning curve. And it's important to have programs also that support other women to inspire them to come and achieve sanitation. It's something really I'm passionate for.
Well, thank you. I think right after the presentations, we will get even deeper into this topic. I would like now to introduce our next speaker. Thank you, Diana. I'm sorry. Thank you, Diana, for this very insightful presentation and for this very inspiring answering of your question. Am I still muted? No, I'm not muted. Our next speaker is Jeff Marilyn Mong. I'm sorry, I always have problems with your surname. Jeff Marilyn. She is a rural development expert and an SDG advocate. She's skilled in rural infrastructure and is currently working at the ministry, rural ministry in Cameroon. So welcome, Jeff, and thank you for joining us. We'd like to hear from you about the special challenges that rural women face when joining operations, and rural water operations are a special challenge. The floor is yours, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Eureka. And please, could you share my slides? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. While we wait for my slides to arrive, so just like it has been said, I am Jeff Marilyn Bomo. and I'm a rural engineer. I work with the Ministry of Water Resources and Energy in Cameroon, and I am actually at the decentralized services, which is at the divisional level somewhere in the West region. So, Cameroon is a country found in West Central Africa, and Cameroon is a country found in West Central Africa, and the Ministry of Water Resources and Energy is a relatively younger ministry because it's just about 10 years old, and we have a total staff of about 1,300 with a very low representation of females. And even with the few females that are found, they mostly are found in the urban areas. So in the rural areas, the female representation is really low. At times, it goes as low as 10%, which is exactly the case in the zone where I am found. So the Ministry of Water Resources and Energy regulates the activities of the national water utility, which is called CamWater, and we also develop the legal framework governing the water and sanitation sectors in both rural and urban areas. But since we're speaking specifically of the rural areas, we also develop, implement, and monitor drinking water supply programs and sanitation programs for the local communities. So, unlike the other speakers, I am going to be talking from the lower pyramid. That is the women that are at the lower pyramid of the career, where we are located in the rural areas and we have limited resources and so many challenges we face. So, how do women in this situation? How do they cope with that? So, um, before we get to that, previous slide, please, where we try to highlight again the importance of having many females in the water sector. We know that just like the others already said, when women are present, in water activities, there are more benefits both for the communities and for the households. And women equally mean gender diversity, and they think better, and their customers equally get more satisfaction when they work with women. So what is it then like to be a female working in a rural area for the public sector? Oh, generally, we have limited channels of information transfer. Like, for example, communication is not very fluent because things could be happening at the national level, maybe at the ministerial level, and before the information gets to us down at the rural areas, it may already be outdated, or the activity may have already passed. So we need to, as a woman in the rural area, you need to always be on the watch out, try to always get to follow up to know what is available and what is happening at a particular time. One other challenge we face is poor availability of work resources like the hardwares, maybe the computers, and worst case is the internet. Internet connectivity in the rural areas is really poor. And then also sanitation facilities are not they're not like separated the males different from females. We don't even have like the lactation rooms. I would like to specify here about the case of internet. In Cameroon, for example, the internet connectivity in the regional headquarters, that is the urban areas, is way better, but in the rural areas, it's really low. Most of the times, the internet servers work with the national electricity grid. So if there is like a blackout, then definitely there will be no electricity in the rural areas. Those in the urban areas, they may have backup electricity, maybe from generators. So in the rural areas, really working with internet is a very big problem. We face a very big problem with that. Then also one of the barriers you can have is like the cultural experiences. So with the stereotypes, it's difficult to work as a female because first of all, most of the field work, most of the technical work is done at the local level. Those in the urban areas are mainly for maybe coordinating the activities or gathering, synthesizing the data that is coming from the local area. So with the technical works mostly taking place in the rural areas, it's not it looks like it's a male uh, activity. Like when they see females out there in the field, they're like, people are a little bit surprised, like, okay, so but this is supposed to be more of a male field. But then it's not just all about the challenges. One thing which is really encouraging, which our ministry does, is during the International Women's Day, there is always there are always some awards that are specifically for women. They try to encourage the women that come really early to work, the best female worker of the year. So I mean, all of that really gives encouragement to the women at the rural level. Then also there is the problem of attraction challenges because there are no mentorship programs available or like some role models. So as a female, we need to be self-motivated. We need to like get it from within ourselves, like, okay, we should go into the water and sanitation sectors. We forge our ways ourselves. Is really difficult because there are no mentorship programs we are aware of. Next slide. So, conclusively, what do I want to say here? Um, we need more women in the clean water sector in the rural areas in particular. But then I think this is going to be dependent on the relationships or the cooperation that can exist between maybe the companies and maybe the training schools. For example, while I was in engineering school, I was the only female in my class out of 17. So you see, the females don't really, they don't know why they should go into the sector. So we need a lot of cooperation to be able to inform the girls to take the STEM subjects in school and also go into the water and sanitation sectors. And also another way to really be informed as women, especially at the rural level, is to join a network. Just recently, there was a network that was created for women in Central Africa, the Waseka network, which I am happy to be part of it. And it's actually through that network that I am here today talking to you people here. So the network, what does that network do? We are mainly to network and highlight women who are involved in the water and sustainability sectors. We carry out webinars and awareness campaigns and workshops. So we need a lot of female representation in the sector, which is still really low, especially at the rural level. Thank you very much. Back to you, Eureka.
Thank you very much, Jav. This has been really insightful to learn about rural reality for women working in the sector. I would just like to highlight one thing that you mentioned. Besides all the difficulties that happen when you live remote and work remote in remote rural areas, you said something that makes it attractive for companies to hire female. You said it at the very beginning, that customer satisfaction increases when you hire more women. I think this is an absolute additional value that they bring to the overall operations, and that helps the relation between the operator and the customer. When the customer is happy, it's much easier to implement new things or to communicate, to set out builds, or to work on problems and challenges that you might face during operations. The good relation with the customer is very interesting. And you also said something very, I think, a very visible example. You were the only one studying the career in your class. So I think this is something that we heard also from our speakers before, from Chriselle and Diana, saying that you have to start at young to educate the people. Diane emphasized that starting in school, making it attractive and visible already for school children and schoolgirls, that this could be a career for them. I think that's very interesting to look at. And Jeff, there's a question in the chat that says that when you mentioned that the facilities were not really good for in the rural areas, like missing comfort, like separate toilets or the internet or old office technology, etc. Is this really the topics that make people think like, oh, I'm not choosing this career, I want something different? Or is this something that makes people really fall out of the job, not keep going on it, maybe starting and then feeling it's uncomfortable and then they leave? How would you see this?
Thank you very much. I think it encompasses the both ideas, because at times some people get into the job, and when they discover that the working conditions or the facilities are not there, they get really discouraged. And they're like, okay, I cannot keep up with this. As well as others just feeling like, okay, I cannot work in a rural area. I mean, I don't want to live in a rural area because I know the challenges that are there. So they don't even want to go there.
Okay. I think that's very important to know. And I think that's an extra challenge for rural operators, how to make the rural area attractive for people to stay there. When they study a career, they have something, they have the diploma, they have the knowledge, they have dreams of a future career path. So how to make it more attractive for knowledgeable staff to come and stay and see this as a workplace to live in. Thank you very much, Jeff. I think that has been really fantastic to listen to your experience. I would like now to introduce our next speaker. That he is, and we have to say this, unfortunately, we really have to highlight this. It's a gender session, and we have one man. So we have the gender balance now the other way around. Thank you very much, Gianpiero, for joining us. Gianpiero is the manager in SBO for Culture and People Department. I think this is a very interesting department in a technical environment. SBO is water operators covering 4 areas in Chile. Chile is a South African country with a quite
South American.
Yeah, South American. I'm sorry. What did I say?
I said South African.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was sticking to Diana and Jeff. No, South American country with a very challenging geography. It's a very long and, let's say, slim country. South America. Gianpiero, I'd like to leave you the floor. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ulrika. Just 1 minute. Okay. Good morning, evening, and afternoon. We are very happy to taking part in this event that seeks to show the best gender equality practice in the world. We are SBO. We are the second largest sanitary company in Chile, attending 4 of the 19 million people who lives in Chile, while 23% of our workers and 20% of our leaders are women. We have signed up to the Sustainable Development Goals, which includes gender equality and, of course, drinking water and sanitation. I I think that the 23% of women or female participation in our company has surprised many. Why? That is essentially because these numbers are quite high in our country, and we have increased the female share in an industry where their share is just 8%. We have very seriously taken the gender issue to heart, and I would like to talk about what we have done in response of three challenges. The three challenges are how to generate an ecosystem that allows retaining women and developing their careers. The second one is speeding up change and generating a critical mass. And the third is being aware of how the environment is changing and what change we have to adopt in the company. How do we generate the ecosystem? First, by making the gender and diversity issue part of corporate strategy based on ethical conviction. After that, we sign up the United Principles of Female Empowerment, joined governments initiatives, and are constantly measuring work satisfaction, working and providing training about stereotypes, as most of the limitation of glass ceilings, for example, occurs due to baseless attributes about the performance of men and women, or reserving some tasks that can only be done by men. That is a stereotype. How do we generate the ecosystem too? Although the attraction still had its challenge, we feel that retaining women in traditional male industries requires special attention. And this is where our judgment is the main challenge. Maintaining a fair and balanced salary system is essential, and acknowledging that work conditions like the infrastructure and shift must be compatible with roles workers have, having options for special times in life, for example, pregnancy and raising children. Here the concept of co-responsibility appears, where we promote sharing family tasks in a more balanced manner among men and women. But the time is limited. How do we speed up change and add greater critical mass? 3 years ago, we implemented an exclusive leadership course for women that contains technical competence of the sanitary sector, which allows preparing women for leadership positions. We are convinced that promoting women to leadership position is essential in the strategy, so that they promote other women's. For this, it's the key to mobilize soft skills, but also technical competence, hence providing parity in training opportunities. It is also essential to be measuring through annual audits the progress and compliance of the commitments and procedures that form part of our gender equality management system. We are also speeding up the change by impacting our environment through training programs in plumbing for female heads of households. To date, we have trained more than 200 women in the 4 regions we operate. The third challenge, it's being aware of how the environmental change and what change we need to adopt with the company. And the pandemic brought a lot of lessons with it. For example, working on the gender issue in advance allows us to make quick and efficient decisions, incorporating a gender approach in teleworking and the return plan, face-to-face return plan. We must now also adapt to the new post-pandemic reality. It's super important, the gender approach in this kind of problems or challenge. Oops. Our Gender Equality Action Plan also has an impact on the public in general through marketing campaigns and promote diversity. It's not only gender, we are focused on diversity too. Finally, all this work has transformed us in leaders in our operation areas, and for this reason, the Minister of Women of Gender Equality from Chile came to our facilities to award us with the Equality Seal. That was this year. Our challenge today is to keep working on the culture to be agents of change. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Gianpiero. I think that's very interesting to hear how the corporation, the big company, manages to increase women in the work, to increase the number of women in the workforce. I think it's really surprising when you said 22% women nowadays work at, form part of the workforce of SBO. And you said something like it was for the overall country, it's only 8%?
Yeah, the sector, the water operators is just 8%, but it's the statistics now. And
so other companies are not doing that well on this. They miss out an opportunity, I guess.
Absolutely. We talk about that. More equity, it's more value for the companies. It's a different approach of the problems. If you don't incorporate women at your operation, you are losing opportunities. That is a fact.
I like I think it was the second last slide where you did show the special programs you have for women. And this is doesn't look like the typical customer service jobs that you were mentioning there. So can you please explain this a little bit?
Yeah, it's the third year. It's a leadership program, exclusive, only women, and mix technical competencies of the sanitary sector, which prepares women for leadership position. It's like mentoring, but mix very well technical competence of the sector and soft skills. Usually that kind of programs are only, not every, but only soft skills. Leadership is soft skills. But to grow up in your organization, you need technical skills, and that is a focus on our company.
Wonderful. And may I ask also you, as we have learned from the previous speakers, that education and school and university to get women into the STEAM careers, how is this situation in Chile? Do women study already with a different mindset, study this career and think like, oh, I'm going to work on sanitation plants?
Yeah.
Do they do that in Chile?
This recently, there are universities start working with quotas, and a part of a course of the university in STEAM careers are women, and that is very, very strong. But now we have a critical mass of professionals. The important for us is retaining people. Is retaining women, and that is important. You have a very good ecosystem inside the company. It's super important because they arrived, but they left the company if they don't have the conditions, and that is super important.
I'm sorry, I just have to write some notes because it's very interesting what you're saying. I think it's really, really interesting that you say that to concentrate on retaining the women is important. I think this is something that we can face all throughout, not only in the water operator sector, but throughout every company. If you have good staff, you have to keep the staff, and you have to build the staff to be more engaged and to feel more loyal than ever to the company and to see a future. This helps the overall business principles of every company, no matter whether public or private. They really need loyal staff who see their vocation in this job they are doing.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So after this extremely interesting 4 presentations from different parts of the world, from Latin America, Africa, and Asia, I would like to switch over to a next poll question to see what our audience thinks. The question now is, what are the barriers for women in the labor market, in the water operator sectors, that you are aware of, you as an audience? So I really ask the individual audience, what are the barriers that we all know about and that we think are important to highlight? Here in the chat box on the right side, there is the Mentimeter question. I hope you have all managed to get into the chat box, because you just have to log in with this. I hope the audience has managed to, because I had problems difficulties at the beginning to get that it activated. But please type in your question, and maybe Lindsay, you can share the screen so we can see the question on the screen. What barriers for women in the labor market are we aware of? And now especially with a special focus on water operations. So I see 2 have already written something. Family and job, a dirty job. Oh, patriarchal culture, lack of skills. Lack of skills is something very interesting, because we've just heard from all the speakers, all the 4 speakers, that training is something they really focus on. So it seems that the water operations require a very special training, that you might study a career either at university or directly on the job, but then you need a special set of skills to really be in the water operator sector. I think that's children, no? Children obligation. Yeah, family and children obligation. That's something special for women, seems like it. Family and job, feminine natural endowment. What? I'm sorry, I really don't understand this comment. Maybe our speakers do, I hope so. Unequal opportunities. So we've just heard from several speakers that they try to train the people on the job. They try to pull them already out of the schools or out of the universities to get to learn about the water operations. I think this is something what we can say, the operators that we are meeting here in our session, they really know about skills, about how to make it attractive, an attractive work environment. And Oh, I just got a comment. I suggest lack of skills, but I meant lack of encouragement for women at schools and colleges to STEAM careers from Neil.aquafit. So, yeah, so he means to encourage women to study this career. And this is something that we've heard from all 4 speakers, that women in studying this career is really not very usual. Women tend to look out for other careers. I think Jeff really mentioned the most impressive example, saying that she was the only woman student in her class. I think that's really something. She was the only one who could never skip classes, I guess, because everybody would notice. So I would like now to open a discussion with all our speakers on the different topics that we've just learned and that we maybe have learned from the other speakers here. And I would actually like to ask a first question to Gian, and maybe then I would like to invite the other speakers to follow in answering this. So what are stereotypes, or why are stereotypes central when we think about gender work in our companies? Why are gender stereotypes, our mindsets, important when we think about hiring a female, or being gender blind when we hire a new staff member, or when we choose a career? So what stereotypes do we have in mind? Gian, may I ask you on this, because you're the people and culture manager?
Thank you. Stereotypes, it's a big thing because affects not only women, just men and women. It's about to think some task and some profession and some things that can only be by men or by women. Now it's not true. We need to work on training about stereotypes. It's a very important dialogue into the organization, because usually stereotypes are unconscious. You don't know you are think like that, and it's super important to talk about that and prove with facts women can do anything into the company. Usually the glass ceiling, I don't know if I explained very well, but women's note glass ceiling in his careers, because people think, oh, they can conceal the family and work, but it's not true. That it's a stereotype. That it's a mindset. We need to change our policies, change our stereotypes or mindset, and that change culture. And that is the finish goal: change culture, the environment of work. That's my point about.
Wow, this sounds very. I really like it. Changing cultures and changing the unconscious behavior that we have all within us. I think this is always, no matter where we are, we all have a culture that we grow up in, and that limits or challenges, not limits, it challenges our behavior.
Yeah, it's changed the unconscious to conscious.
Yeah. How do you see this in the Philippines? Because I see that in your company you look very much after strong female engagement in the workforce. Do you also see stereotypes hindering people entering the job or getting hired, maybe?
Actually, one of the things that I didn't include in the presentation, but I wanted to just took it out because of the time limits. There are certain jobs that are only, well, specifically only the males have it, and some jobs only the females have it. So, for example, plumbers and pump operators and mechanics are stereotypically male, right? And the females take the positions of cashiers and customer service assistants, right? And it was really interesting for me to see Gian, that they had a plumbing training for women. I like that. I really like that, right? But I have a funny story. It's the opposite actually of a female stereotype. It happened to a male. So it's true that for plumbing positions we hire males. And so there was one male. We hired him, so we put him on the field as a plumber. And after 4 months, his manager complained, told the HR, I'm not going to regularize him because he's lazy. Okay. But we decided to give him a try. So we assigned him to another area. And same thing, he's on the field, a plumber. And the manager also complains. We can't regularize him. He's hard headed. He's very difficult to work with. So anyway, they brought it to my attention, and I talked to the guy, and I said, "What's wrong? Why aren't you working? Do you want a job or not?" And he said, "I don't want to work in the field." And I said, "Oh, is that so? You don't want to work outside?" And he said, "No, I want to work inside. I want to work in the air conditioned office." So I said, "Okay, all right, sure. Here's the photocopier machine. It's right outside my office. So you be the photocopier boy, and I'm gonna see you every day, and I'm gonna see if you're gonna do a good job, okay?" And so actually, it turned out really well. He did a good job, and actually, he got promoted. Now he's a supervisor, and yeah, so it happens. There are stereotypes, but we're willing to break stereotypes when the occasion arises, right?
This is an interesting story of gender bias. Gender bias happens in both directions. So one has to
Yes.
really find out what you want and what the others want, and how one can contribute to the overall company goals. That's very,
And
very interesting to see that the own stereotype, sometimes one has to question it.
and also I have to say, because since gender equality in the Philippines is we always have parity. um we also have to be careful of not discriminating against the males now, right? In fact, sometimes the females are getting so much representation and the males are losing out. So in the organization, we make sure to keep that balance. And I say that with a grain of salt, knowing that in other countries it is definitely not the same, and females are really discriminated. But yeah, so it's very interesting. This is a very interesting experience. We also have to be considerate to the males sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chriselle. Jeff, how is this stereotypes situation in rural Cameroon?
Okay, thank you very much. I really like the example from the Philippines, where they recruit just male for the technical domains. Contrarily, here we have a few female that are recruited for those plumbing positions. For example, I before I got into the Ministry of Water Resources and Energy, I worked with a local water authority, and surprisingly, we had a female plumber who was a meta engineer. Actually, she was one of those that were installing the metas in the field, and I mean, it was really always surprising when people see her in the field. So just like Gian said, it's about changing the unconscious stereotypes and becoming conscious about, like, we're taking some decisions unconsciously, but of which they can actually be the other way around.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And Diana, I think working as in a very high position and being the first female leader, managing director of water operations, have you encountered stereotypes as a central element when hiring people, or when maybe people leaving a job that they are, or when you do not find the right person for a job, that maybe the stereotypes people have in mind hinders you to find, not you, hinders the right person to come to the right position and staying there?
Oh, thank you so much. I think in our case, I've heard for others where they say the, plumbers and all should be male, but we also managed to get some who are female. I have some also who I can give an example of, like a lady who is a cleaner. I know that because we actually gave her an award, and she would work, really so hard. So you probably think this person would be more able to do the female kind of work, but you find that they're able to go into a water plant, and be able to clean it more like a male, really change the way the plant looks like. And you find that we do have these experiences. So both on the side of just this example of a cleaner, and I think we're also looking at how do we get a few examples of some plumbers who are female and can be quite outstanding, when in actual fact you think they would do better in other areas. So yeah, the experience is there.
Okay, thank you very much, Diana. I have here a question in the chat box, which I think is a very important question when you talk on female workforces, because it explained a little bit what was mentioned in the word cloud before: feminine natural endowment, the role of women in childbearing and upbringing. It is usually a problem to most families, especially when it comes to a female managing career and family duties. I think this is something every woman in every corner of this world can relate to. How to manage both a full-time job, a challenging job, a job where you really want to fulfill your professional goals, and then having a family and family duties. In some places, it's easy to find childcare. In other places, it's nearly impossible to find childcare. Sometimes you're alone with a child. Sometimes you have a big family around. But nevertheless, women are always feel that this is a special challenge you do not hear when you talk with men about job life. So who would like to jump in?
I can start. Yeah, the challenge, I actually call it balancing the wheel of life, because I find it quite difficult. It's a challenge rather, where you have to manage family, job, children, just as you said, and you also have to ensure that you achieve success in your work. So yes, this is one major challenge that I have personally faced, and I've also seen it as a challenge for some of our female employees. What it requires, it actually calls for hard work, because you probably have to put in more long hours, commitment, and probably I was fortunate. I've had good support from my family in terms of taking care of the family. I think in terms of child care, you find that you have your spouse and you have other members that assist with taking care of children when you need to work long hours. But really, what it calls for sometimes is more like you doing double work. You make sure you excel at work, and you also make sure you have adequate time for family and other social issues. But this is something that can be done with proper planning, with proper support in place. And I can also mention the flexible work arrangements that sometimes we have. In our case, in our country, we actually have a new employment code that actually has taken into account the issue of maternity leave, which is now much longer, up to 14 weeks, and I think 17 weeks if you have twins. And we actually have a Mother's Day, where on one of the, when you have a challenging day, you can take Mother's Day. Although again, when you are in the senior job, it's really whether you should take that or you can actually utilize that also to still juggle with work. There's also the new code also looks at extra 1 hour if you're taking care of a child of less than 6 months old, and it also helps with when you are expecting to have at least 30 minutes rest. So this has come in to support the women in terms of flexible working. And in my presentation, I talked about the post-COVID, because during COVID-19, we're able to work remotely. So sometimes when a female worker has a challenge, they can work remotely with an understanding of the supervisor. So these are all some of the areas or the ways in which we can help to overcome this challenge. But of course, it calls for commitment, it calls for hard work, and we need some kind of support system in place.
And may I ask you, do you do this also for fathers, or is this only for mothers?
I think we have what we call paternity leave, but I must admit it's less days than for the female. But there's at least some kind of recognition.
Yes, I think because a child usually has not only a mother, there's somebody else involved in the children, no?
Exactly.
I think I see Christelle nodding here. So maybe you can share your insights on how to do this family duty in your company, how to do this wheel of life, or the challenges you have when you combine both a private life and a private family life and a profession.
I have to also underline and emphasize the family support. In the Philippines, we usually have big families. So, what our company can offer women and also men, right? Because we also go to the rural area. So, I understand, like Jaff, the challenge of getting people to the farthest areas. But when we go there, having a job is a big thing, having a salary. So a woman who gets hired to work for our company, she can now be the breadwinner of the family. And so in some way, she can ask her sister who may be younger than her, still in school also, or her mother, or cousins, to be the one to take care of their children while they work, because the economic opportunity and the salary that they would earn working with our company, and I'd say our salary scales are competitive in the area, is a good support, not just for one person, but other people in the family as well. So that would be I think that would be the attraction, right? And I have to say also, it really is a family support. So that's very important. If you are a woman alone, single mother, or even your husband is working and you don't have that system, definitely it's a challenge. It's a bigger challenge.
Yes.
But if you do have family members around you, then to ask them to help out while you bring in the money, I think that's a big something that we could promote to encourage women to come to the workplace.
That sounds, yeah. It's definitely a challenge, because it's not just double work, it's triple work and sleepless nights. No? How is the situation at Esbio in Chile when thinking about the special situation many women face? How do you cope as a company with this when you think about your female workforce, Gian Piero?
We think it's very important to adapt infrastructure and shifts because this is a 24 hours service.
Yes.
And the shifts are very, 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 very strong, and usually it's difficult to compatibilize with roles. It's very important to understand the roles women and men are different, and you need to having special options, for example, in special times in life, for example, pregnancy or raising child. But more important than this is the base. The more important than this is the concept of co-responsibility. We talk and we work about that, and we promote sharing family tasks in a more balanced manner among women and men. It's we have a special days for fathers, 2 weeks before 2 weeks after the born of the child, and it's not used at the beginning. Now the men are used because we want to take caring activities in his house with the baby, and that's start to work, and we push that. It's important to balance the roles and the task in the house. It's super important for having a career or activities. In Chile, it's interesting data or fact. The woman's work per day 2.5 hours more than men. 2.5 hours per day. This is a study. And usually are house task of the house or family, child.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The so-called unpaid work,
Unpaid absolutely.
Care work. Yeah, now during the COVID pandemic, I think many countries have seen this. Who does the housework? Who works at home? And who looks after the children? Who is paid? Who's not paid? And for their work they do. And it definitely, they try to consider, I think, globally, that family duties are work, and it's just happening in the family and not in a company with a payroll. So that's the difference. That it keeps getting quite energy absorbing, but it's part of, as Diane said, I really like your expression, the wheel of life. So we all have to see how to arrange these difficult situations, or the challenges, not difficult as a negative word, the challenges that we are facing. We are coming now to an end. It has been really too short, these 1.5 hours with you. I could keep on talking and learning from you and listening to your stories, and to learn from how the different companies or institutions dealing with the situation of attracting women to work in the sector, what they can offer the women, and how to overcome the barriers that are there. Talking about the barriers, I think that would can be endless. I would just like to have one single last question to you, and just one, I think 1 or 2 words from each of the speakers. Do you think, which stakeholders, or what stakeholders are important for the creation and stabilization of an enabling environment for women in operations? So what stakeholders need to be getting on board if you want to change something? Can it be the director? Can it be the teacher in school? Is it the politician, the mayor of your city? I don't know. Just 1 or 2 ideas that you have, just as a last brainstorming and wrap up of all. Maybe we can start with Marcel as our first speaker.
Definitely, I'd say the HR manager. Yeah, mayor would be good, and teachers.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. My internet connection was bad. Can you please repeat?
The HR manager of the company, definitely, that would be critical. I agree. The mayor of a town would could encourage more females in the workforce, and definitely inspiring teachers.
Teachers in school. Great. Diana, what do you think? Who are the important stakeholders?
I think leaders at various levels, be it political, organizational, really are there to help to drive and support this agenda. So I think leadership really requires that you take this into account. But of course, especially that are passionate to look at the schools to be able to also appreciate it at a lower level. I think from the teachers also we need that.
So actually everybody, oh? Diana.
Yeah, no, the leaders, political leaders of organizations,
Yeah.
and I think teachers.
Yeah, teachers. I really like this. I'm from a teacher's family, so I really like to hear that teachers are so important in the life of all of us. Jeff,
Yeah.
who do you think is the stakeholder in Cameroon?
Okay, I think policymakers are really, really important. I would just give the example of Cameroon. Here, the policies actually advocate for what we call in French regroupement familial. So when women are recruited, they try to send them where, when you're working with the government, they try to send you where closest to where your husband is.
Okay.
So policymakers are really important, and the teachers.
Teachers
are very
too. I love this. And Gianpiero, the last words from you.
For me, public policies, HR manager, I'm agree, and the mindset. For me, it's super important mindset, and the mindset.
Mindset is a good stakeholder. I like this.
Yeah, for me, it's less stereotypes. The mindset is less stereotypes and more leadership. We need to open the spaces.
Super. I really like this. I think you four have done the wrap up of this session with these last very powerful words from all of you. I would really like to thank you all, the speakers, to Chriselle, to Jeff, to Diana, and I would send my very thank you to Gianpiero. Joining this discussion, letting us know how the situations in their country is, and how gender policies, gender operations, gender hiring, gender barriers, gender everything is managed in your operations. Thank you very much for this extremely interesting session. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And thank you very much to the audience for the very nice questions you've sent here in the chat box. As far as I know from the GWAPA organizers, this session is recorded, so you can watch it afterwards on the GWAPA platform. That's where I think it's happening. And this is the closing now. I understand that Franziska from GWAPA will show us a final video to close this session, but yeah, we are done with this, and 1.5 hours or even more. It's more than 1 hour and 40 minutes that we've been speaking here. So thanks a lot. Thank you all, and have a good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ulrika.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
What? Already over?
No, we have plenty more options to continue the discussions and peer exchange beyond the Congress.
Tell me more. What are the options?
Well, SHIWOPA membership, for example. By becoming a member of SHIWOPA, everyone can connect to a global alliance of practitioners and experts. There are two ways of becoming a member. First, institutional members. Institutions can participate in SheWOPA's assemblies and are eligible to run and vote in its international steering committee elections. Or second, individual members. Individuals can connect and engage with peers in the online SheWOPA community. We have created a space that allows for networking and easy communication. Meet future WOP partners, stay up to date on project opportunities, and participate in peer-to-peer learning opportunities.
Sounds great. How can I join?
Simply go to www.shewopa.org and register for free. If you want to know more, you can follow SheWOPA on social media and subscribe to the newsletter. Thanks for joining the 4th Global WOPS Congress. We'll see you soon.